Hey guys, this is Wayne from Make It Wayne or Make It Wayne Audio. I am a reviewer that's been predominantly on HeadFi doing written reviews, but this is kind of my very first foray into video reviews. So I just want to apologize in advance for any rough cuts or rough edits or lack thereof video editing. It's going to come in time, so bear with me, but I figured this would be a very big splash to make for a very first video review. Today I'm going to be talking about the AME Mousa. AME Customs, I believe, is the name of the company. They are a outfit out of South Korea. They've been around since 2015. They've been doing some other flagships. I believe they have the Raven, the Gaia. Most of their stuff is featured on Music Tech, and they are sold everywhere else, but this specific unit is something I listened to at SoCal CanJam. Was one of the real big standouts, honestly. It was one of the funnest and bassiest sets I've ever listened to, and actually surprised me how much I really liked it, considering it is a 13 BA and 2 BCD IEM. It's a bit heavy on the heavy side, very hefty. We could listen to also, or put in my ear, the Rep Studio V3, which is a bit heavier than this one, but this tops out as one of the heaviest ones I've ever put in my ear. But I'll kind of get into ergonomics and that stuff later. Real quick shout out first. This is not a unit, personal unit or anything like that. This is actually purchased by Musing Clouds on HeadFi. He lent this out to a few people, including Jaytiss. And if you haven't watched his video yet, you should watch Jaytiss's video on YouTube. I'll link below. He did a fantastic breakdown, graphed it in case you want to look at the graph, as well as did some comparisons to the Fade 1, the Annihilator, kind of getting the idea of what the other flagship level performance comparison is. In my video review, I'm just going to talk about my personal subjective taste. I don't really graph. I don't really want to do a frequency like measuring, but gonna kind of go over everything that I can, and yeah, let's get into it. I'm going to do a quick unboxing video and then kind of talk about everything you get in ergonomics and then the sound.
Okay, so this would usually be the place where I would have my white gloves because, I'm classy like that. But unfortunately, well, that's not the case today. I have actually no idea where my white gloves are. So yeah, you're gonna have to deal with man hands. So here's the unboxing experience. As you can see, the box is actually relatively big. And the process is lift it up, and you can actually see how gorgeous those IEMs are. There's a nice little coin there, and there's actually a very nice kind of calling card there. I apologize for my fingerprints because I actually moved it out. And then these are the IEMs. I'm going to take that out afterwards. And then underneath this is actually a relatively large carrying case. Don't know if you would actually want to use this regularly for travel, but it is an option. There you have the tips and section for the cable, and then for all the other accessories as well. So let's take those out. As you can see, this is the carrying case. It is actually removable. It's very nice, actually. Very classy. Fits snugly. Very nice. Right, so let's go ahead and lower that down. Let's bring on the main attraction as well as some of the stuff there. So as you can see, these are the AME Mousas. Kind of snugly, so underneath there. See, they're very, very nice looking. They have a lot of intricate details. Actually very heavy as well. So you can see, very intricate. A lot of ridges here on the front end. Same for this side. In fact, what I'm going to do is adjust the light a little bit. There we go. So you can kind of see they're very, very sharp looking, very nice. So let's put these off to the side. You have a nice gold coin. Then you have the cable. So the cable is an Elitech cable. I kind of mentioned it there. It's actually very, very soft, pliable, sturdy. Actually, what I like is that it's not the most memory prone, so you can kind of loosen that up and just do a quick wrap. Wraps very well. It's very nice. Works very well with the Mousa. I think the only issue I have is that it is a 4.4, and that's all you get. Now, my main issue really is that it'd be really nice if this was actually a modular cable that came with it, but unfortunately that is not the case here. But as you can see, it fits the overall look. Let's do this up to the side. See, it's very, very nice blend. I apologize because it's like the first time really recording and unboxing, so I have no idea what I'm doing with my hands. So that is the cable. You also get several tips, and you kind of see what they kind of all are. You have your spin fits. You have multiple sizes. You also have the standard AME tips, and you have comply tips, and this is all metal. So metal cards makes it very, very classy. Those are your tips that are involved. You also have in this accessories box kind of a pouch to keep the earbuds separate and seal it. So it kind of reduces the entire potential for them to clang together. And considering how heavy they are, it's kind of important. You also get a very nice substantial warranty card for the Mousa. And then you have kind of a cleaning cloth as well as a cable connector or cable tie. And those are the accessories for the AME Mousa. So again, very, very substantial, heavy-ish kind of set. That's kind of be one of the main things, is that they are very heavy. They also do have kind of that smoother nozzle, as you kind of see, and overall it grips onto tips very well. He has a lot of different sizes of tips, and it works very well for tip rolling that I found. Had no issues with it overall, and in fact, one thing I will actually do is show you the size. So usually I like to measure onto the lip, which is like the largest part. Switch back to millimeters, and we're about 5.8. So you can expect the size of the nozzle to 5.8. And those are the unboxing for the Mousa. Very, very gorgeous set. Honestly, it's very, very substantial looking. The gold is very intricate. It's a bit heavy. That's the only probably con I have with it. But overall, it is a very nice, beautiful, premium feeling set.
So I wanted to get back into the fit a little bit, because that is one of the major points of contention I did have with the AME Mousa. And to preface this, it feels very comfortable when it's actually on. But when you don't have it on, it feels like a giant chunk of metal. And specifically, it's Mokume Gane blocks that's been CNC'd. So it's copper blocks that have been CNC'd down. Very precise, very well manufactured, but it is very heavy. Now, when it does, when it's in your hand, it does feel very thick, does feel very heavy. You feel almost like it's going to just wreck your ears when you actually put it in your ear hole. But it's not as bad as you'd anticipate. And I think just the way it's been like kind of precisely done, and then the fact that the nozzle lip's only 5.8 millimeters, it actually helps that go along so it doesn't feel too heavy in the ear itself. But, you know, it can be heavy for some other people. I would not say this is going to be the most comfortable set of all time. If it works for your ear, then it's going to be fantastic. But if it doesn't, that is something to be cognizant of if you're sensitive to heavier IEMs or anything like that. So, how does the AME Mousa actually sound? One word, thunderous. And I use the word thunderous because the AME Mousa, with consideration of the fact that it's 13 BAs and 2 BCDs, it is one of the more fun, bassiest, warmest IEMs I've heard. The bass is very deep, again, thunderous, it is impactful, it slams very hard, and I think one of the best things about it is that the decay is just the perfect amount of, present, not too quick. It allows you to feel and have that energy stay with you until the note's ready to actually go. It doesn't feel unnatural at all. It doesn't feel like it's, lingering for way too long. It just feels right, honestly, is probably the best way I can describe it. The bass is probably my favorite part of the AME Mousa. So, to preface my kind of breakdown, I want to give you my sound preference. I usually prefer warmer music or warmer sound. I usually enjoy really good sub-bass extension with an ample amount of mid-bass. I would typically say I prefer mid-bass to be not as overbearing over the sub-bass. Unless I'm in the mood for that. That's going to be more of my bass head kick where I want to feel and I want to just get lost in music. For mids, I prefer fuller sounding mids. I don't mind a little bit of mid-bass bleed. Just kind of depends on the tracks I'm listening to, but for the most part, I want my male vocals to sound very full, very lush. I want my female vocals to sound just the right amount of air. I don't want to go to that shouty area, and I usually would probably say I lean more towards a safer amount of treble extension. Like, I don't want it to be too harsh, too sibilant. I usually prefer my music to be more moderate volume listening, or sometimes high if I really want to crank it up. The Awful Explorer, for example, is one of my favorites just for that specific reason, where I can crank it up and there's nothing lost in this case. So let's talk about the bass. The bass performance for the AME Mousa is my favorite part about the IEM. You get super deep sub bass, you get very detailed bass notes, you get very impactful and thunderous mid bass that slams into your head almost, it feels like, both without being uncontrolled. Like, this is a very controlled bass delivery. The playback is very satisfying for a bass head, and I would honestly say that it's probably one of my favorites I've listened to. Now, there have been a lot. I am going to say that I really like bass. If you've read any of my reviews before, that's like my favorite part. It's very engaging to me. So what I would say is the AME Mousa is probably one of the best bass, and it's actually very shocking considering it is a BA plus BCD set. I would say that it does not feel like BAs that's delivering the bass notes. It feels like it's DDs. It can be a little bit faster than I prefer with the decay and everything like that, but it's not to that level where it's like distracting. It's just trying to chase and provide that detail-oriented nature of bass while also giving you that impactful like bass. So yeah, I genuinely very, very like the bass performance in the AME Mousa. So the mids performance for the AME Mousa is very, very satisfying. It's very warm, it's lush. It is very colored, so this is not trying to chase a neutral sound signature. You get very full male vocals. It's actually one of my favorite sets that do that. and you get very good details for instruments. You get very good notes from guitars, from pianos. Female vocals still come off as very well like performed. It's very airy. You get good elevation on that. I would prefer maybe a little bit more airiness to female vocals, but at the same time, it doesn't come off as like fully husky or anything like that. Just kind of a personal preference for me. Sometimes I would prefer just a little bit more air, but at the same time, I feel like adding more air would probably take away from the signature too much of being just kind of this very warm, comforting set. So mids are very well done in this case. The treble extension I feel like is handled very well. It's very well extended. It can be very elevated, but at the same time, it's kind of being offset by how deep and impactful the bass is performing. So in certain songs where you're going to hear more treble and there's not a lot of bass notes, it may come off as a little bit harsh, but I don't think it comes off as very like unnatural sounding. It's very clear, it's very crisp, very detailed, it's pleasant. You just may notice it a bit more if you're listening to something more with a lot more high end. And not a lot of bass like any live performances or acoustics. I think when you have that proper balance and you have a normal track you're listening to, the bass will kind of offset a little bit and it'll help make it sound just warm and balanced, but you're still getting that excellent treble extension, excellent detail and airiness kind of above the tracks. So the biggest nitpick I have really is the technical performance. And what I mean by technical performance is I usually group detail, separation, imaging, and soundstage all together in a single score. And again, this is nitpicking because the AME Mousa still scores an 8.5 out of 10 on my written review. But where the detail and separation really shines through and has great imaging, you can really hear the separate instruments playing back. It's not very wide sounding. The soundstage is a little bit more compressed than I prefer. That's not to say it's not good, but in comparison to other flagships in that same price range, you're getting better technical performance there as opposed to AME Mousa. That being said, the AME Mousa is a very musical set. It's not trying to be neutral. It's not trying to be a technical monster. It's really trying to get you lost in the music, and that's where I think the AME Mousa really shines. It's a very musical, warm, comforting, like relaxing set that a lot of the other flagships may not have that same level of, you know, head bobbing or enjoying your music. So, you know, again, my only nitpick would really be the soundstage. I could use a little more height, a little bit more width, having it being a little bit more open, but that is a nitpick because this is more of a musical set than I've heard in a lot of other flagships. So to talk about other things, tips, I have a very nice IEM tip case. So I kind of went through all my tips here, and some of my favorites really were the Radius D mount. Not everybody has access to those. I also really enjoy the Dunu SNS. My written review, I kind of go into a little bit more depth, but what I like the most is that the nozzle isn't too wide, so you can enjoy a wide variety of tips and kind of play around with your sound. Kind of enjoy it. I think one of my favorite sets was the Dunu SNS and the Radius D mount, specifically because it does very good bass performance. And kind of like with the SNS specifically, where my nitpick for technical performance is a soundstage, the SNS kind of opens that up a little bit, so it feels a little bit more immersive. Just kind of a general preference, but I think you could really enjoy rolling your tips and kind of seeing what works, what fits, and what can help open up the sound to your preference. Another thing to note is that the AME Mousa is relatively easier to drive. You don't necessarily need a lot to power it. I did use a Abigail Pro on it, and it drove it just fine, but you're not getting the full performance and consideration of like using it on a Jaytiss Element 3. I was getting absolutely great performance from that. Synergizes very well from more neutral sources. I also had the FIO K11 R2R, and I tried it both on the NOS mode and OS mode, and the NOS mode just took that warmth to another level. So there is good synergy. It'll play back very well on whatever you try to drive it with. I would probably lean more towards a neutral side just so that you're getting more of a balance. But if you want to go full tubes or full R2R, I don't think you're going to be disappointed here. The last thing I would really want to talk about is that I don't think the AME Mousa is going to be the premium daily driver for everybody. I think it's more of a number 2 or number 3. I think it works better as your, like, I want to have fun weekend getaway type of IEM, as opposed to your daily driver where you want to just have it and you want to like just sit back, relax, or put it on and work on something. You know, this is not a daily driver type of set. This is a special, warm, musical number 2, number 3 weekend getaway type of IEM. It can still operate as an all-rounder. Don't get me wrong, if that's what you prefer your daily driver to be a massive, bassy, warm set, then it can work. My preference would say, or my inclination would be to say that it's more of a number 2, number 3 to help round out your library. Now, can you afford a $4,500 set to do so is another question, but you know, for people that can or are playing in this space where they would be interested in the AME Mousa, absolutely I would recommend it as a number 2 or number 3. And if you really prefer a warm sound, then maybe even number 1. It could probably compete with the Fear Audio XE6 in this case. And it works very well for both moderate level listening as well as high volume listening. I do feel like with high volume listening, you're getting a little bit more treble energy than you really would prefer if you're looking for that warm tone. But again, the bass performance is thunderous enough that it could kind of balance it out and not feel like you're just getting nothing but treble spike or energy. So I think it works very well for moderate and high volume listening. So in conclusion, I enjoy the AME Mousa. It is a very special set. It's very warm, it's very musical. It does a lot of things that a IEM in that price range may not do. And a lot of IEMs in that price range are trying to go for that all-rounder set where they're trying to be your everyday driver at a premium price. They might follow a specific, you know, kind of HRTF or a specific target, and world full of Harman tunings or other types of tunings that are following somebody's squig or something like that. The AME Mousa doesn't care about that. It's trying to present its own personal playback of what it feels like music can be enjoyed. It's very just lush and musical, and I feel like that's special. While it is at a premium price, I think if you can afford it, or if you are looking for something to like complement your library, it's special enough to warrant that price tag because it is something different, provides something different to the market, and I think it's a very just different type of tuning than what you see every day. It's not going to be your all-rounder. It's not going to be your thing that you listen to every single day. But I think when you want to really get away with your music, the Mousa does a very good job. So yeah, that's it. Overall, I scored it a 9.05 out of 10, which kind of rounds up to about 4.5 out of 5. And yeah, I really enjoyed my time with it. Thanks for watching.